would like to know how we got here in terms of preference for weave-on and permed hair over natural hair. How did we get here?
There's a quote from Malcolm X. Let me see if I can actually pull it up and cite it for you. It's a very brief quote where he asks the question of who taught you to hate yourself, right? And he says, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? To such extent you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to so much that you don't want to be around each other? No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, that's a reference to Elijah Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God made you? Right? So there's an answer to that question. It's not rhetorical. Who taught us to hate ourselves? And these are the white Eurasians, who sometimes we refer to as Europeans, French, British, so forth and so on. And one thing that you'll see is that there's an economic component. There's an economic component to the self-hatred. So when he's talking about once you decide or you've been taught that the color of your skin is not correct, now who do you have to go to for chemicals in order to get something to make your skin quote-unquote correct from their perspective? Once you decide or you are convinced by these same white people that the texture of your hair isn't good, now who do you have to go to either get weave-on extensions or chemicals that then cause cancer, things that were never seen in Africa before. Now fibroids, cysts, everything, is here. So they make money on both ends. One, they make money from when you have to get the chemicals to look like a horse or a dog or a pig or any other creature that's not human. And they also get money once you start to get sick from all of those chemicals, right? So they've given you a disease, and now they're the ones to provide a cure, but rather than a cure, they just rent you a treatment for the symptoms, right? Because you don't actually get to a cure unless you root out the cause, and the cause is them, so they are the problem. So even when I talk about the self-hatred industry, it's a multi-pronged industry, right? So the hair is one aspect of it, but we shouldn't look at it in isolation. The skin bleaching is another aspect of it. Praying to a white Jesus is another aspect of it. There's a whole industry around praying to an imaginary white man, right? In addition to that, the clothing, once we decide that or we're convinced that our clothing isn't good, now who do we enrich to the tune of billions and billions to go and wear the clothes that now are civilized and these are in style or trendy or sexy or whatever term we want to use for it? Even the things that we consider to be African, like your wax print, is originally coming from Indonesia. So the process is coming from Indonesia. The Dutch, of course, they were the colonizers of Indonesia, so that's why they say Dutch wax prints, because they didn't invent anything, right? They stole it from the people who they colonized, and now we look at the Dutch prints as, oh, these are so great. They, Vlisco, bought Woodin, bought GTP, all those things. So all of those, even the things that we consider to be African, are a component of the self-hatred industry, because we have to ask ourselves, what were we wearing before? And this was the type of thing that we were wearing before, our own woven cloth. We would grow the cotton, we would dye the cotton naturally. This one was dyed with indigo. We would sew together the strips, and then we would do the embroidery as well. So all of this, so you can even rank things in terms of how African or un-African or anti-African it is in that aspect. So again, multi-pronged self-hatred industry, because again, once they convince you through entertainment, because you're just looking at it and you're like, haha, this is cute, I like this, oh, it's just a TV show, it's Kum Kum Baja, it's this, it's that, oh yeah. But no, it's none of that. All of that is, there's another quote from Malcolm X, he says, only a fool would allow his enemy to teach his children. And that's what the entertainment industry is. Even more than the miseducation system, the entertainment industry is allowing someone into your home to give you images and to convince you this is what beauty is. This is what intelligence is. This is what goodness is, and so forth and so on, to the point that there was a doll study done in the 1950s where they had children who were younger than 5 years old. Yeah, okay. Where they had children who were younger than 5 years old, who that means they hadn't even been in the school system yet, but they had a white doll and a black doll, and they asked them which doll is the pretty doll, right? Which doll is the smart doll? Which doll is the good doll? Which doll is the rich doll? Like everything good, they picked the white doll. They said which doll is the bad doll? They picked the black doll, the one who looks just like them. Which doll is the stupid doll? Which doll is the unintelligent doll? Which doll is the ugly doll? Then eventually they asked them, now which doll looks like you? And then they don't know when to choose. Begrudgingly, eventually they say, oh, okay. And then they choose a black doll. Which means that all these negative things they were trying to identify with this white doll. They want to be little white children even by 4 years old. But then they realize, oh, hold on. Okay. So now once you start to believe all of those things that you've associated first with the doll, now you apply them to yourself. Now how do people like that behave towards other people who look like them? So when we go into corruption is our problem, our leaders are our problem, I say all of these are stupid answers. Excuse me to say. All of these are stupid answers. This is looking at the symptom as though it is the cause, right? The things that we lament about, those are the end result of an intentional process to create that end result for someone's ultimate benefit. So how do you create all corrupt people, put them through this miseducation system where they think everything black is stupid, dumb, whatever, and the only way to be good is to imitate a white person? The only way to be good is to get money like a white person. Only way to be, you understand? So this is the end result of a process. So we have people who can't even think to the point where they can understand the difference between cause and effect. They think effect is a cause, and the actual cause they can't even conceive of. So the hair is one component, but again, we don't want to look at it in isolation. Otherwise, we too, our thinking will not be able to resolve any issues either.
Okay. Wow. I didn't look from everything I see from that angle. It's very true. So it's been a whole generation of mind processing. I see. So with the topic, it's looking at the hair. So I would like to ask, who would you blame? So would you blame us, for feeding on the perception that the hair is not good? Or would you blame the white people? Would you blame the colonized or the colonizers? Or even the 21st century, you blame us because we are free from slavery, but we are still feeding on the perception?
There's another quote I want to give you from Kwame Ture.
Kwame Ture.
Right. And in it, I want to see if I can pull it up. If not, I can pretty much paraphrase it. But in it he says, and if I can, I'll pull it up. In it he says essentially that you can make no analysis in any aspect of the life of an oppressed people and leave out the oppressor. Anytime you make an analysis of an oppressed people and you leave out the oppressor, you will always blame the oppressed people for their own problems, right? Which is the whole point. So first off, with the self-hatred industry, there's another good book. I may have it here. It's called Black on Black Violence. The subtitle is Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. I'll come again. It's called Black on Black Violence. Black self-annihilation in service of white domination. And essentially in there he talks about how the things that we look at again are the effects of something. How do you get someone to hate someone who looks just like them? We've already briefly covered some of those things. So now when we see each other as less, right? Now how do we treat each other? Usually it's not in the best way. You may cheat someone, you may beat them, you may do whatever, because when you look at them, you say this is a worthless person. And you think that because you yourself are black, you've been taught that you yourself are worthless. So now you're seeing a mirror and you're trying to strike out at your own self. So this is the extended self paradigm, as Dr. Kobe Kanban calls it, because your self isn't just where your skin ends, that your self is part of the whole race, by all black people. So when you see yourself on the individual side as being less, now you treat other people who look just like you as that. So again, the point of bringing the Kwame Ture quote is that if you leave out the oppressor, then you're only going to blame the people who are being oppressed for their own problems, which is the whole point. Because once you do that, now you just go beat up some more black people and you leave them unscathed. The whole point of every single thing whites give us is so that they can be protected and that they can survive. Every single thing they've ever brought to Africa is so that they can be protected and so that they can survive. Christianity, to protect them so that they can survive. Marxism, capitalism, socialism, communism, every single ism, neoliberalism, because in none of those things is there any component that says, and at the end, do this to white people. Nothing that they've ever brought tells you this is how to get justice against white people. There's nothing they will ever bring you that tells you, oh, at the end of Marxism, go and beat up the Germans who committed the first Holocaust in Namibia. Not the Jew Holocaust, no. The first Holocaust, the first concentration camps were against the Herero and Nama people in Namibia. So the end of Marxism, this is what you need to do about these white folks in order to get justice. No, there's no component of that. So when you look at, again, to bring it back to the hair issue, that all of these things, for us, we have to understand that the self-hatred industry, the idea that let's blame each other, now let's keep beating each other up, and then let's leave them unscathed, they laugh all the way to the bank with that. That's what they would like for us to do. So the first step in taking responsibility, right, I won't even use the term blame internally. I'll say the first step in taking responsibility is to do something about the enemy who keeps attacking you. Right? Because most of the people say, yeah, we need to, take responsibility. They say that, but they don't want to take any responsibility. Because picture someone who comes into my house with a knife, right? And then they're stabbing me in my neck. And as opposed to me saying, you know what, let me take the responsibility for doing something about this guy stabbing me in my neck, I'm saying, no. The problem is I'm not mopping the floor. Look, the floor keeps getting wet. It's my own blood. Look, I need to change. I need to do something. It's like that's inappropriate behavior. That's an inappropriate response. You're saying you're taking responsibility, but the first step in taking responsibility is to prevent this person from stabbing you. You understand? So once you recognize you have an enemy, then you can do something about that enemy. That's the first step of being a responsible person. The step of being irresponsible is saying, oh, I'm going to blame you for not locking the door tight enough. I'm going to blame you for, we understand, now we're beating each other up. It's like, well, what about the guy who keeps stabbing all of us? No, don't worry about him. Let's just keep beating each other up because we let him in. You understand? That's what they would like for us to do, because again, they stay unscathed. And then what happens is that there are less black people to even stab because we've already done the job for them.
So you've been in Ghana for a long time, right?
Somehow.
Okay, so what are the general perception of natural hair in Ghana?
It's changed. So I first started coming to Ghana in the late 90s, and at that time you would know who's Christian because their hair would be permed, because they're trying to look like Mary or Jesus or anyone like that. Yeah. So you would have women in the market or anyone else, their hair wouldn't be permed, but anybody who I asked, I would see them with the pearl. Say, "Are you Christian?" Yes. I say, "Wow, how could I figure that out?" Because that's the whole point of them bringing you these images of white Mary, white Jesus. Meanwhile, there are between 400 and 500 images of black Mary and Jesus all throughout Europe. So we have to ask ourselves. Let me give you some fantasy. All throughout Europe, and even the term Europe I don't like because they like to pretend like their little side of Eurasia is its own continent. But if you look at a satellite map, if you just go to Google right now, you'll see that Eurasia is one landmass. There's no break, there's no separation. So for their own definition of continent, Europe does not qualify. However, they just want to say that their little sliver of Eurasia, Western Eurasia, they want to say is its own continent. it would be like saying West Africa is a continent because I'm from West Africa, so let me just say West Africa. It's like, no, it's tied to the rest of Africa. It's like, no. But me, I'm my own. You understand?
Yes.
So anytime we say Europe or Europeans, we're playing into a figment of imagination. You understand? Just look at the map. That's what I do. I just show people, just look at the map. Where is Europe cut off from the rest of Eurasia? Then they later say, oh, I guess it's not. So I say, so why are we going along with this okey doke ridiculous, thing? But that's a sidebar. So, yeah, in Ghana, that was the case in the 90s, because that's the whole point of giving you these white images. Now, the whole idea of a Holy Trinity is plagiarized wholesale from Africa, right? So Asar, Aset, and Heru, that was the original Holy Trinity, which was the man, the woman, and the child, right? So that's why they have the Black Mary, because that was stolen from Aset, which was the woman in the Holy Trinity, and they kept her black, holding the black Jesus, because it was a wholesale plagiarism, right? So you go all throughout Europe, if you type in Black Madonna and Child, that was the title of Mary, the Black Madonna and Child, you'll see 400, 500, everywhere you go, Czechoslovakia, Spain, Italy. In the Vatican, the Pope kisses the feet of the Black Mary, right? So all throughout Europe, they have all of these things, or as I would prefer to say, Western Eurasia. So then we have to ask our question, how come when they came to Africa, they left all the black ones, and then they brought only the recent ones made by Da Vinci and so forth and so on? Because it wasn't until the late 1400s that Pope Alexander VI commissioned Da Vinci and some of these other so-called Renaissance artists to use his son, who was a known murderer, incestuous genocider, called Cesare Borgia. And he said, that's his illegitimate son. He said, I want my illegitimate son to be the image, the model that you use in order to paint this white Jesus. Because before that, you have all the black images. But as white people, they said, why are we worshiping these images of black people? We were white. We need to worship images of white people. So think about this: 1400s. How many centuries passed before they even got the bright idea of, let's stop worshiping black people, let's worship white people, right? Which is good for them. Let them do what they want to do. But then the question comes to us: well, why are we now worshiping white folks, right? You understand?
Yes.
So then they bring you this image and they say the only begotten son of the creator of everything looks like the same people who are enslaving you and colonizing you. Mm-hmm. So are you going to fight against them and you think that they look just like? No, that's the reason. So they leave all the black images, they bring the white images here to Africa, and we're seeing the end results of what happens with that, right? Mm-hmm. Everything we complain about is the end result of that intentional process, and that's one of the main components of that process of engendering self-hatred.
Okay, so would you say globalization has a hand in the perception of natural hate crime?
Globalization is a misnomer. Globalization is a euphemism for whitenization. I actually gave a talk called by the same title. Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking about whitenization, so if you're saying globalization, you would expect that everybody would equally be sharing and blah, 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 but it's not like that. Usually when we're talking about globalization, we're getting things from white people, and then we're behaving like white people, we're perming our hair like white people, we're dressing like white people, suit and tie like white people. So their ideal of globalization is that everybody's sitting around the table. You got Chinese sitting around the table, Africans sitting around the table, Caribbean, everybody's sitting around the table, and they're all wearing suits and ties. What kind of globalization is that? Where's your kente? Where's your adenkra?
Yeah.
You understand? So you can sit, that's the it's like basically an updated version of multiculturalism, which is that you can bring your black self, but as long as you're speaking English, as long as your hair is perm. Somebody just posted an article about a woman who was fired because she wore an afro to Richard Nixon's I want to say daughter's wedding. Let me see if I can even pull it up. But anyway, that's the idea that, okay, yeah, you can come, but as long as you come with your perm, as long as you come imitating the hair of a horse or a pig or a dog, because when you think about hair texture, the only thing that you can really call human hair in the sense of that which is different from an animal is what we have. If you look at any other mammal, right, I hope you're following. If you look at the fur of a dog, the fur of a wolf, the fur of a horse, the fur of any animal, it's not like this. It's not human texture, all of that. Then if you look at the fur of whites, it's all the same texture as the fur of any other animal, right? So if you want to talk about human hair, there's only one thing that we could reliably refer to as human as opposed to any other mammal. Everything else, we shouldn't call it hair, we should call it fur. You understand?
Yes.
So now we have full human beings, and when I say full human beings, according to their own studies, the only full Homo sapiens sapiens are African people, which is quite ironic because when we go and play in the Premier League, then they throw bananas at us. But according to their own genetic studies, the only full Homo sapiens sapiens are African people. The only and when I say that, it's because all other people on the planet are mixed with Neanderthals, mixed with Neanderthal DNA, right? So you can look at National Geographic articles, scientific articles that all go into that. So Neanderthals were all throughout Eurasia. So when Homo sapiens sapiens, the original black people, went up there, they mated with some of these Neanderthals, and there's still genetic traits of Neanderthal DNA in the whites, in the Eurasians, in Chinese, and Denisovans. All of these are not full Homo sapiens sapiens, right? And then there's another compounding factor, which is a mutation in a specific gene called SLC24A5. And this is a gene that is most responsible for what comes out phenotypically as black skin color, right? So the original allele is called alanine, right? And that's when you have the original allele, that's when you come out black like normal human beings. But when you have a mutation, that's where the alanine becomes something called threonine, right? The threonine, then that is where you'll find those that have the allele of threonine, their skin surfaces as being white, right? So you have two compounding factors. One is Neanderthal DNA, the other one is mutated genes, right? And those who have both of those two factors, they don't have human hair anymore. They have the same mammal fur that any other type of mammal has. A rabbit, look at it. Horse, look at it. Cow, look at it. All of them have the same type of fur. So we have to be very clear on who we are and who they are. The name I was looking for, Melba Tolliver, fired for wearing an afro to Richard Nixon's daughter's wedding. This is back in, of course, the 70s. Tolliver had been given the assignment to cover the wedding of Tricia Nixon, daughter of President Nixon, and defiantly reported without a wig, scarf, or any other headgear. The station had no choice but to run her stories, but they tried to sideline Tolliver upon her return. So again, this was the blowback that she got for being a full human being. Mm-hmm. You have to have fur like a dog before you can work on a television station.
So when you decided to lock your hair, what was the reaction like? Your family, your friends, or even how people treat you, people who don't know you because you have the dreadlocks? How do they treat you?
My mother has locks too because she's an Okomfo, which is a traditional healer, diviner, and spirit medium in the Akan tradition. Specifically, I should say Akan and Guan tradition because it's Latte, which is additionally seen Guan people, even though they speak the Akan language there. So she was initiated to an obosom called Asujibi. So locks are the symbol of office of people who are initiated into African spiritual systems, and that's been the case for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. If you look at the inscriptions on the tomb of the author of the first book in the history of the entire world, Ptahhotep, you'll see that he has locks, and again it's a symbol of his spiritual office. If you look at the Sangoma in South Africa, they have locks. If you look at the Akomfo here, if you look at Dada, you know, it's showing that they have a spiritual connection. And among the Yoruba, if you look all throughout the continent, it's meant that for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. However, when we have amnesia, we miss all of that history and we think it started with Bob Marley in Jamaica, without asking ourselves, how did those people in Jamaica get to Jamaica? Through enslavement, you had originally people who were Akomfo, who were healers and diviners. So even the things that they say, they'll call them a root man. What does that mean? It means someone who has knowledge of medicinal herbs and things of that nature. It means that they kept their same position of what they were doing here, the Akomfo, right, the Abosomfo, and then when they were taken there. So I was give the analogy that it's like cocoa to chocolate. So the cocoa starts here and goes abroad and it comes back as chocolate, and then we're amazed like, wow, where did this come from, right? Same thing with the locks. It came from here, originated here thousands and thousands of years ago. It goes to Jamaica, or the people were stolen by white people and taken to Jamaica. Now it comes back and everyone says Rasta, Rasta, Rasta. So in my own family, my father also has locks. He's also initiated into the spiritual system. My sister has locks. She's not initiated. Hers is more on the fashion side. But all of us are initiated. Me, myself, my mother, and my father. I was initiated as an Osofo. And even when I say Osofo, people think, which church? And it lets us know we have no knowledge of our history, because the word Osofo was there before there's anything called a church, anything called a white person in Ghana, anything called Christianity. So again, when you go to Latte, you see all of the Asofo. But now the people who are Komfo and Asofo, they don't keep locks anymore because people think that they're Rastas, right? So just, I can count on my hands the people who are Komfo who still keep their locks as it was done originally. But if you look at the statue of Okomfo Anochie, you go to Kumasi, it shows him with the locks and it shows him conjuring the golden stool. That's the original thing, the symbol of office that shows that you have a connection to the supreme being, to the divine. It's the locks, right? So it depends, to answer your question, it depends on the level of consciousness of the person who I'm dealing with. Most people walking around will say Rasta, 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 and it lets you know that they know absolutely nothing about who they are or the history of what locks are about or anything like that. Those who are initiated, of course, they know what it is, right? So they'll say Mpese, Mpese. But when I try to let people know, it's like every single person, because everybody goes through the same miseducation system. The conversation what I have with this person here is going to be the exact same conversation I have with that person and that person. So if I'm walking down the street and I meet 50 people, I have the same conversation 50 times, because everyone doesn't know the same thing and everyone knows the same thing. You understand? So that tends to be, the case of things.
Okay, but have you been treated differently or being disrespected because you have the locks?
It depends on how I look at it, because most people will greet me saying respect, Rasta, respect. So that's
fine.
So that's the thing. Like from my perspective, I wouldn't see that as respectful, but when I look at it, they're trying to connect with somebody to think, oh, this is an African from the diaspora. I'm trying to connect. They just have no idea how to connect because they don't know about re-Africanization. They don't know about de-whitenization. They don't know about our own indigenous spiritual systems. And they think that because they have given up our own spiritual systems that everybody has, you understand? So it's like, well, there's only Christianity and Islam, so therefore you must be a Rasta, which is just another brand of Christianity. So as soon as you believe in Adam and Eve and any of that garbage, it means that you are in Christianity, no matter whether you're smoking weed and doing Christianity or not. All of that is white insanity. I have a friend who calls it Christian sanity instead of Christianity. So I'm not down with any of those things. But, I even think that, some people, I have colleagues who, they're Ghanaian and they look like any other Ghanaian. If they have a issue with the police, they're just like sidelined, or they're at the bank and what do you call? Because they look at you like a small boy or just a regular person, whatever. That for me, usually I get some type of better treatment, I think. So if I come in there, I'm speaking Chi, I'm wearing my African clothes, I stand out in the crowd. So it's a conversation starter, and then I'll start letting them know about some of the things I'm telling you today, and then it becomes like this, we're best buddies over this. So yeah, generally speaking, I would say that tends to be more the case than the other. However, I have colleagues who are Ghanaian who said that they don't get it like that, that if someone knows that they're from Ghana, they're expecting them to act like everybody else. It's a herd mentality. So I have a friend who said, man, I wish I could keep my hair like you and keep a beard like you and wear African clothes. But he said he works here at University of Ghana. And he said he went up to the top registrar and they saw him and they said, come back when you've cut your hair. They would never say that to me. If they said that to me, heads would roll literally. I'm not saying figuratively. Heads would roll literally. You understand? There would be a murder scene here at the University of Ghana. People would not be alive anymore. But no one would say that to me because they're like, oh, he's from somewhere. They're just kind of, whatever. You like culture. Oh yeah. So that's even a self-defense mechanism of just making it like a trivial oh, that's just whatever. Yeah, that's cute. Oh, you like culture. Go on your merry way. Now, my former PhD supervisor, Prof. Osam, he was a pro vice chancellor, and I did my PhD defense. I was, of course, with my locks. I had all of my beads from the different abosom. I had my beads here, and I was wearing a cloth. That's how I defended my PhD thesis, right? Then I came for my job interview. I had my beads. I think I had like porcupine quills in my hair. I was wearing my cloth, you know. And the director at that time, Prof. Adamako Ampofo, she said, "Are you coming here to scare us today?" I said, "No, are you scared?" And but it was interesting because I had an interview that probably has not gone like that for anyone else ever. So Prof. Cephas Omenyo, he was the interviewer. He was the Dean of Humanities at that time. You know, they had that different system at that time. And so I came in. It says, "Metise wutichi." I said, "Ah, metichi." He said, "Nti ya betuma you win na wutchi mu ana." I said, "Ah, ya betuma you wutchi." And he also nti chi no usuano wa him. He said, "Usuano wa." So we did that, like the whole interview just became like a novelty thing. Like, how does this guy just come from somewhere and now he speaks Chi? So the whole thing was just like, you know. So of course here I am. I got the job, but I would see like the locks and just who I am working to my benefit. There are some people who are very cowardly about who they are and what they're about. So if I came into the room like that, I would have a whole different result. So how you present yourself to people is how people will react to you. So if I came in there like, oh, I guess I better wear my suit and tie today, or maybe let me cut off my locks and whatever, and then imagine I get hired, then I start trying to be whatever. No. I would have the same reaction as the other guy who, you know, whatever. But I come there like, this is who I am. And it was intentional because I said, if you plan on me working here, you better know what you're getting into. So that's how I approached it, and that's how they had to receive me. Of course, it didn't hurt that I won the Vice Chancellor's Award for Best PhD Thesis. It didn't hurt that I won the Provost Publications Award for the Best Publication in the Humanities. So if you excel, especially, because I figure if I was mediocre, I probably would have more of a challenge. But, you know, all these people with their perms and whatever, they're not doing what I'm doing. Last year I published 8 articles. I have colleagues who haven't published 3 articles across 5 years. You understand? So the idea is that these go together, this and excellence. The author of the first book in the history of the world had locks. Not because he was smoking weed, not because he was reggae. It's because it means something, you know, much deeper than any of those things that we associate with it now. So that's the connection. Excellence, connection to the Supreme Being. This is what we're about.
Okay. You know, initially we accepted that there's been a trend of natural hair in Ghana. What do you think are the motivating factors? What do you think suddenly, especially the young ladies, have started going natural?
You know, I was listening one time to a Senpai film. This must have been somewhere around 2011, maybe 2012. And they were talking about hair. And the women were calling in and saying, oh, you're treating TV as I said, alright, that we do it because the men like it. And then men started calling in and saying, we don't like this. Like several men called in, like, I've been waiting on this. Like, come on, let me get it. Put me through, come on, let me. So many men were calling in and saying, we don't like that. Why don't we have no idea? And a week to the day, like, I lived in Frafraha, which is as far north as you can get, right? And then drive all the way. I was teaching at Agabaraka at that time at AUCC, and I could drive that entire drive and not see one single woman with her hair natural. Not one single woman with her hair natural. And it means I'm driving through Adenta. That means I'm driving through Adenta, I'm driving through Medina, I'm driving through every neighborhood. I can't see one single one. A week after that program, I saw a sister with her hair natural, like a little short fro, and I like had to. I wish I would have taken a photo. Like, yo, there's a change in the air. Let me take a photo. There's a change in the air. But after that, I started seeing more, like 2, like 3. And I think the main thing that came out, and I don't know if just that interview or series, but that's what I heard. And then this is what I saw just from my own anecdotal experience. That then I would see 2 sisters with locks. And I see 3, 4, 5. And now I can walk through campus and I see so many sisters with locks. So I'm married now, unfortunately. Let me not say unfortunately. But at that time, I was like, I'm not dating any woman who has a perm. I'm not dating any woman who has her hair looking like. What kind of embarrassment would that be? Could I bring you home to my mother and my father and you're looking like a horse? What? That would be the utter disgrace. I'm supposed to be about something and then I'm walking with something I should be riding on. Are you serious? No. So, if that trend was going on when I was still single, I probably would have had 50 girlfriends. But I guess it's okay. I missed out on that window of opportunity.
That's interesting. So with the last question, I would like to know: do you think the trend will last, or do you think it will fade out?
It's come and gone and come and gone. So you remember, that's what I was talking about before. Afros in the 1970s, black is beautiful, all those things. That as long as our white enemies have access to us, it's possible for it to go, right? Because they depend on our subjugation, on our self-hatred. If we're not hating ourselves, there's a quote by Dr. Amos Wilson, a psychologist, and he says, for the world to be what it is, we have to be in the state that we are in. That means we're intentionally herded in order to be in a particular type of mindset, because the power differential, the wealth differential, everything depends on us being on the bottom, because here's the money. The less money that we have, the more money they get, because we're the ones who are giving them the money.
Should I hold tight or should I come?
Yeah, well, this is the last question. She's doing an interview, so this is the last question. Yeah, just hold tight. Okay. So yeah, that's the whole thing. That and we could look at it in various areas. If we don't think that white-made schnapps is better than palm wine, Dutch, they won't be able to pave their roads. They won't be able to, have skyscrapers. They won't be able to have clean water and other things. They depend on us sending our money to Holland. You understand? If we think that, their clothes or their whatever is better than ours, that is how they are able to send their children through school. You understand? That's how they're able to build their houses. That's how they're able to do everything, have clean lawns. So the money that we give them, that's aid, right? We talk about U.S. aid and IMF and World Bank. Our mentality gives them loans every year to the tune of billions, if not trillions, through the clothes that we wear, through the things that we drink, through the foods that we eat. Billions, if not trillions. Now, don't you think we could pave some roads here with some of those trillions? Just the schnapps alone. Let's leave out every single other area. Let's leave out the computers and laptops and just schnapps alone in 1 year could pave every road in Ghana. I hope you're following. Just clothes, right? Every time you see someone, they think they're stylish, they think they're whatever. Let's say you've given a loan to your enemy. Trillions. Just look at the clothes. Let's leave out the schnapps now and look only at the clothes. Trillions and trillions across the continent that we're giving to our enemies as aid. There's enough that we could have a space station. You're following? Just from the Obruniwewu syndrome. And Kenya has now blocked it. Rwanda has blocked it because people are starting to say, you know what, this is stupid. So effects are not causes, causes are not effects. The leaders are not the problem. They are a symptom of the problem. The problem is the self-hatred industry caused by the real problem on the planet Earth, which is white people.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This interview has been very insightful.
Good, good.
Very, very insightful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I hope I could come around if I need any.
No problem. And I don't think I caught your name. Your name again?
Araba Sam.
Araba Sam.
Yes.
Okay. Good to meet you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.